Hello everyone, welcome back to day 11, learning sculpting. I'm your host, Jameson Edie, and today we're going to be, as the title suggests, learning how to sculpt in Blender. Yesterday I worked on, well, before I get to that, I first wanted to show the Discord of the project that I'm working on because I haven't been promoting it as much as I should have been, and I want to just show here like the read first page or whatever. I'm not gonna go through it. I suggest you do if you're a new member, but this is the project that I'm working on. We have a thriving community, so make sure you get over there and join the Discord, specifically through my link, for no reason. Actually, not. There used to be an invite competition, but I believe it's since stopped. But anyway, click on the link in the description for the link to that. And yeah, so what I was saying beforehand is yesterday we created the basic topology, I believe it's called, of this face, whatever, and I quickly realized that it's probably going to be a lot easier to sculpt, to add on different like facial muscles and like the nose and like how I want to make everything just a lot smoother. So I want to I'll adjust this a little bit later to get more of just like the bare bones of the face, so I can add on the muscles myself with like sculpting. But to start, I just want to follow another tutorial I found by our friend Grant Abbott. He's the same person that produced the well tutorial that I started in my original streams, if you go back and check them. Also, I've been posting my streams on my YouTube channel, Jameson Edie. I'll also link that in the bio, but so you can see some of my older streams because I believe they've since expired, because I'm not a Twitch partner yet. Just wait, we're up to 6 subscribers, so we're fairly close. And anyway, this is a quick 25-minute tutorial, but I'm gonna put it on 2x speed. I believe just like skipping through the video, he's not like really making anything, he's just showing like the different brushes over here. As you can see, I know some of them, but I feel like it would be good to just get a good refresher, because I haven't like officially tried to learn any of that. I haven't really added to my notes too much, but a lot of the shortcuts and things that I have are for like edit mode, or layout mode rather, as opposed to the sculpting stuff. I didn't really take notes when I was in the shading tab, which I definitely should have, and I will for the upcoming project, because it was difficult to learn the lights, so I should definitely have written that down. But it's alright, I can go back and honestly learn more about it because I need to make these look even cooler. So anyway, I'm gonna start this tutorial. I'm probably going to just open a new file, just so I don't mess with that face too much as we learn the brushes. Okay, I'm gonna start.
Media, I'm Grant Abbott, and this is a quick start guide to sculpting in Blender 2.8. So when you first come into Blender, you will see a screen like this, and you can actually click on the sculpting option there, and it'll take you straight into sculpting mode with a heavily subdivided board. I'll go to wireframe mode, I'll quickly show you that it's got lots of subdivisions. Back to solid mode, and you can start sculpting on this by left clicking on the surface. First come into Blender, you will see a screen like this, and you can actually click lots of subdivisions. back to solid mode, and you can start sculpting on this by left-clicking on the surface. However, you may start the more traditional way, so if I go File New and just go to General, that's what most people see, especially if you click off the splash screen. So you can get to sculpt mode by going into sculpt mode there. Now what you'll find instantly if you try and sculpt this, it does sculpt, but nothing is really happening. That's because we haven't got enough vertices in order to sculpt. So if I go into wireframe mode now with Z on my keyboard, you can see that there's only a few vertices for me to pull around. So when I start sculpting, it moves those around, but it's not adding any vertices. So let's go back into object mode with Z, Z for Americans. I've also just turned on my shortcut keys, so you'll see them down in the corner there. So we've got this problem that it's not adding any topology. So when we sculpt, it doesn't look like much is happening. Now there's a couple of ways to deal with this. The first one is to start with a mesh that's got lots of subdivisions. So I'm going back to the layout mode and undo any sculpting that I've just done. So I'm back to the beginning. The easy way to add subdivisions is press Ctrl 5 on your default cube, and that adds a subdivision surface modifier under the modifiers tab just here. I can then apply them.
I don't know if I'll ever need that.
That modifier, and that means I'll have lots of subdivisions. If I go into edit mode now, you can see I'm into edit mode with tab on my keyboard. I've got lots of subdivisions there which I can use, and that's pretty much how you start. And I believe this is a similar amount of subdivisions as if you started straight away in sculpt mode.
Or actually, was it Control 5? I'll just add it again. Add subdivision multiply. I know this is like probably not the most interesting to watch because I can only like show here. I'm not sure if like I don't have permission from Mr. Grant Abbott to use his stuff. We see the description. I don't believe I'm allowed to like show the video on my stream. I don't want to risk it, to be honest, so you'll just have to bear with me for this part, and then once I get to like my actual face I can try to commentate a little bit more.
I can then apply that modifier, and that means I'll have lots of subdivisions. If I go into edit mode now, you can see I'm into edit mode with tab on my keyboard. I've got lots of subdivisions there which I can use, and that's pretty much how you start. And I believe this is a similar amount of subdivisions as if you started straight away in sculpt mode. So that's how you get to that position. So back into object mode with tab on my keyboard, so you've got object mode and edit mode up here. You've also got sculpt mode up here, but they've got a nice workspace for sculpting. So if I click on the sculpting workspace, you can see it removes my timeline from the bottom, and it gives me the brushes, so I'm on my tool section already with my brush and options for sculpting down here. Whichever mode you're in up here, you've always got the mode options, or the tools for that mode, or active tool and workspace settings just up top here. So I can start sculpting on this, and now I'm getting some detail, but it's still not much, and you can still see all the vertices. So the more I sculpt, the more stretched out those vertices get, and you can see they're particularly bad up here. What you will also notice is that I've got symmetry turned on automatically. So first let's deal with the symmetry. We've got a symmetry option down here, and I can tick X, and now I can sculpt just on one side. Now if you're doing a face, you will want to keep symmetry on, so you should be quite happy with X symmetry. At any time I can tick this again, and it will start symmetrizing. But obviously, if I've done some work on one side, and then I reapply the symmetry, it doesn't mirror across that work onto the other side that I did when I didn't have symmetry selected. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'll do my strokes there, and I'll keep symmetry on for the moment. The other problem is the mesh stretching. Before I go into that, I'll just tell you that there's lots of different brushes down the side here. The main one that I'm using at the moment is the draw brush, so that's just drawing onto the object when I let.
Okay, so you have this brush. This is what we'll need for the face. What can I make? I made a very strange, my first time ever using Blender, I made an incredibly strange like monster face, just trying to mess it around with like this sculpting stuff, because I wasn't sure. I was literally just like had never used the program like at all. I just was messing around trying to create anything, and I made it very strange. I have a picture of it. I'm not sure if I can, I don't know how to show it on stream because it's on my phone and I use my phone as a camera as well. So I don't know. Is this Jesus Christ? This is weird. Interesting. All right. Good start.
Left click. It takes away from the object or digs into the object if I hold down Control and left click. For basic navigation, we use our middle mouse.
Then undo
around our object, and you'll want to be doing that a lot when you're sculpting. You can also hold down Shift and middle mouse button and move left and right like that. If you want to zoom in on an area, let's say I want to start working on this bit here, I can press Alt, middle mouse button, and it then centers my viewport around that object, and I can zoom into it. So Alt, middle click, center your viewport around that area. That's fine.
Okay. Alt, middle click. Centers. Camera. On area.
Very, very useful. So we've got this stretching problem, so I paint and it stretches. So again, what's happening if I go into wireframe mode with Z on my keyboard? You can see that the vertices are just being pulled out, back to solid mode. What Blender has is an option called Dyn Topo. So if I just click on the disclosure arrow and select Dyn Topo, I'll come up with a warning. Basically, just don't worry about that. And click OK. And now I've got Dyn Topo selected. This is dynamic topology. So when I start painting on this now, you can see that I keep clicking and brushing, and the same amount of topology is being created. And it's new topology. It's not stretching like it is up here. It's new topology. So that's what Dyn Topo does. It adds new topology when you sculpt, which is very
This will be useful to add like large sections. I feel like possibly. I'm talking out my ass, to be honest. I've never used this, but I can imagine using this to like create. So what he's explaining is like without this selected, it's stretching the current vertices. So like. Incredibly hard to see. It's like I'm looking at it from the inside view. If you can, I don't know if I'm gonna get the point across, but like, so right now I'm just like sculpting, right? It's like I can affect these vertices, like these dots that are being highlighted all over the place, but then with it selected, I'm like adding new topology, new new polygons for me to like warp, as opposed to warping the existing ones. If it's kind of hard to explain, but
very clever. So you don't get any stretching mesh like you do up here. If I paint on this now, it suddenly creates more topology, and it will create more mesh as I paint. Now there's a few options here. I think the easiest to understand is constant detail. So detailing, I would choose constant detail, especially for beginners. Relative detail means that when I zoom in, like I am now, the topology will be more detailed. And when I zoom out, like I am now, and I'll do this one back, you can see that it's creating this bit of a mess because it's very low detail. I'm going to go in and paint on that, and you can see what's going on. Occasionally in 2.8 you do get these glitches. If I go into edit mode, with tab on my keyboard and back to sculpt mode, it glitches, generally speaking. And that often happens when you reduce the detail of your object, and a low detail level joins to a high detail level, like it does here. So it's all a bit blobby and messy at the back here. I can smooth it out by holding down Shift and left clicking, and that's the smooth option, as you can see there. Now another important thing.
So what the other thing he was saying. So this like relative detail. If you notice like how when I zoomed really close in, it like makes smaller polygons. That's relative detail. So he's saying just like if you make it constant, it's like it's not the best, I don't think. So higher higher resolutions are, let's say, what is this? Dyn Topo. Adds new birds. Change
to notice. But when I come out of sculpt mode by pressing tab on my keyboard and into edit mode, let's say I wanted to clean any glitches up like I just did. If I go back into sculpt mode now, with pressing tab, which is a shortcut way of going to your previous mode, which is sculpt mode in this case, it turns Untitled off, so you have to click it back on, and of course it asks the warning. Now I can keep painting and adding topology. Also, occasionally when you add a low level of detail, it does shift the symmetry. Can you see it's not quite symmetrized anymore? And I'll go into how to tidy that up later. But first of all, this detail level, I feel, for beginners is a bit confusing. So zooming in, adding more detail, zooming out, adding less, can be problematic for beginners, especially if I zoom out here and start drawing, it's destroyed my level of detail. So it's easy to make mistakes. So I would rather use constant detail. And that keeps a constant detail however far you're zoomed in or out. So if I start sculpting with this, you can see it's still a low level of detail. We're only on 3 at the moment. And I can increase that level of detail to something like 10, and that's much better. I'm going to go a tiny bit higher than that, in fact. Yep, to about 11 in this case. I think that's perfect. I'll just smooth this out by holding down Shift to smooth out the areas. And occasionally, like I said before, you get these glitches. If you go into edit mode, and then back into sculpt mode, it removes them. But remember to click on your line top over again. So I've got constant detail selected with a resolution of 11, so it's quite low at the moment, and I'm able to paint. Now, how about tidying up this symmetry? Well, in constant detail, it's quite nice because you've got a remesh option here. If I click on that, I can re-symmetrize. So symmetrize there. So if I just go around to the front of my object like this, so that's the front of my object there, I can see the x-axis coordinates up here. So I know that if I go from minus x, which is this side, to this side, which way I'm symmetrizing. So minus x to positive x and press symmetrize, you see it tied up that side there. Be a bit careful of this, so you need to understand your axes in order to get this to work. So if I did, let's say, minus z to positive z, and press symmetrize, you can see that it's taking the middle point of my object, which is the object origin or pivot point, and I'll show you that by quickly going back to layout, and you can see my pivot point in the middle. That's probably an easier way, just go to layout mode to show you that. And there's my pivot point right in the middle, so back to sculpt mode, right in the middle, and my z symmetry symmetrized in the z axis. So I'm going to undo that because I really like this sort of weird model I've created here, and I'm still in Untitled mode and constant detail. So I'll quickly take you through the important brushes, and for that I'm going to up the detail level. Now, when you're starting sculpting, I think it's a good idea to stay at low detail and only slowly increase the levels as you go. But I'm going to take mine up to something like 20. So I've got lots of detail to show you the different brushes and what they do. So if I sculpt now, you can see it adds about twice the resolution. I might go up to 30 actually, so I can also type in here, you can click and drag these sliders, or you can just click once and type in as well. So that's a high level of detail, and I'll use that. The more detail I go, the harder it is to smooth things out. So if you make any errors, it's kind of harder to remove them without destroying your mesh. Also, can you see this funny glitch in here? That's on both sides. I'm going to tidy that up by painting over it, and that adds more topology and it's tidied up. So let's go through the brushes. First is the draw brush, and as a reminder, left click to paint, control left click to dig in, and shift in any brush is smooth. Shift left click, that is. The next brush on the list is the clay brush, and that does a very similar job. It's a brush I rarely use, I'd just rather use the draw brush. Same controls, dig in with control left click and left click draw. Let's go to the clay strips. Now this is slightly different. I'll just increase my brush size with F, will increase your brush size like this, give you that control. And shift F is the strength of the brush. You can also, I'll just increase my brush size with F, will increase your brush.
Crease brush
Size like this, give you that control, and shift F is the strength of the brush. It's a brush I rarely use, I'd just rather use the draw brush. Same controls, dig in with control left click and left click draw. Let's go to the clay strips. Now this is slightly different. I'll just increase my brush size with F, will increase your brush size like this, give you that control, and shift F is the strength.
Okay, so just F and then shift. Increase brush strength.
With the brush. You can also get those options over here, radius and
Brush size. Shift F. Changes the strength. That's creepy as fuck. Okay. Something out of the night. Ugh. Could not just speak right there. Something out of a nightmare.
strength. So if I start painting now with the clay strips tool, you can see it adds these strips. And lots of artists quite like this clay strips brush, because it adds quite a lot of topology quite quickly, and it kind of comes from traditional sculpting where they added strips of clay like this to their models. So the clay strips brush is very useful. Now in order to show the next one, I'm going to put in a bit of detail. So I'm going to come in here, make my brush a bit smaller, and I'm going to have to up my resolution a bit more, so I'll put it up to 50 this time, just smooth that stroke out and do another one. There we go, so I've got a bit more detail coming here. This one is the layer brush. So if I click on this, I'm going to make my brush fairly big and draw. I'll just undo that and I'll bring down the strength a touch because I want to show you exactly what it's doing. So bring down the strength and I draw. Can you see how it kept the detail of my model? So the detail that was already there, so if I undo, it's got these lines as detail, and I draw over it like this, it keeps that detail. So it pushes out the mesh, so it adds more volume, but it doesn't destroy the detail. So if I go back, and I did that with the draw brush, you can see how it's losing the detail. It's kind of smoothing it out as I draw. I'll do those, and I'll go back to my layer brush and draw with that. It's keeping that detail. It's distorting it slightly. It doesn't do a perfect job, but
layer brush keeps
it's quite a useful one. If you've done lots of detail and you think, I want to pull that out a bit, you can use the layer brush to just quickly smooth that out. And can you see, because I've got a high level of detail, I can't smooth it back to where it was. But with these low level details, as I smooth, it pushes it in quite a lot. And that's why it's helpful not to go too high detail too early on. The Inflate Brush is very similar to things like the Draw Brush and the Clay Brush and the Clay Strips Brush. It adds topology, but it inflates it. So it just sort of pushes it out and sort of, ooh, so let's inflate these ends here. Add a bit of smoothing with Shift and Inflate. And can you see how it's sort of making very sort of circular, blobby looking things? It's a very useful brush. And you'll see why as you become more experienced. But often you'll end up with sort of tiny strands of things and you need to inflate them and pull them out a bit. I've got a very weird blob looking thing now. There is actually the Blob Brush as well. It's similar to the Inflate Brush, but it just creates a blob. So if I make my brush smaller with F and start painting, there's a blob. Quite a simple brush really. If I keep clicking and clicking again and clicking again, it sort of pulls out the mesh. But if I just click and hold and drag, it creates a sort of round ball-like blob. Like that. Next is a really important brush, it's the Crease Brush. I usually go to this after sort of first level of detail where I've got my main shape. I start using the Crease Brush like I would if I were drawing lines on a painting. So let's say these are going to be eyes, and I bring my Crease Brush in here like this, by left clicking, it creates an indentation like this. So it actually pulls the topology into each other. Very, very handy. The opposite, of course, I hold that.
I said just the crease brush pulls topology together. I guess I can try to show that a little bit what he's doing. Okay, so let me turn around to the ass, I guess, and then we'll inflate it, and then add a blob. So what he's saying is like, to see something like this, it's like pulls it closer so you get more of like a crease, as the name suggests. And I can shift 5 and max out the creasing potential. Make Shrek ears. Nah. Damn, that's way too strong. It does weird things when used improperly, as I should expect.
Now control is to pinch it in but pull it out, like so. Often you want to combine this with a bit of smoothing, so if I shift and smooth those out and then go over them again, it creates a slightly finer line. This brush is better with relative detail, so you can zoom in and it pulls the topology in a better way, and that's when I would want to use relative detail when using the Crease Brush to get nice sharp edges. Next is the Smooth Brush, which we've already talked about. If I click on the Smooth Brush, you can change the strength here, so when you press Shift, it will use that strength that the Smooth Brush is on. So Shift is just a shortcut to the Smooth Brush. So if I use the Smooth Brush now, it smooths things out. And the strength obviously affects how much it smooths these things out. I'm going to put it down to 50%, so whenever I press Shift, that's what it will be at. The Flatten Brush, now this is a very useful one for hard surface modelling, so if I flatten out this area here, you can see what it's done, it's literally flattened it out. Now this is a hard one to control, and there's lots of settings in here which I'm not going to go into, but I will go into those in future episodes. But the Flatten Brush will just flatten things out with very sort of smooth edges by default. Next is the Fill, and this is a bit like the Layer Brush, but it will try and fill things in and flatten them out with whatever's around them. So can you see I'm filling in this gap here? So there's a gap between these two, and I want to sort of fill it somehow. If I go to the Draw Brush and try and draw there and then I have to smooth it out, it's quite tricky. But with the Fill Brush, I go in there, and it somehow works out that it needs to fill the space, and it's not moving this edge or this edge like the draw brush was.
So, say I wanted to fill like here, like fill the eye socket or whatever, then this is, he's saying, is a better brush to do so, as opposed to drawing and like adding a bunch of clay strips or drawing and smoothing it all out, because I can like do this. And then, as you can see, it like it's filling it in again, as the name suggests. And then it's obviously opposite with control. Make it even more demon-like.
So a very clever brush now, and it fills areas in. Next we've got the scrape brush. Now this is a hard one to explain, and it's like scraping down edges that are sticking out. So this edge here will be scraped out, and it's very similar to the flatter brush, and it sort of scrapes things out like you're pushing a knife across the surface of your clay. So it sort of scrapes it backwards. An interesting brush, and there's some interesting things you can do once you get used to all the tools in there. Now the pinch brush is very interesting. I'll show you it on its own.
I guess he didn't really have a good way to explain it, but I feel like this is almost like the clay strips brush, but like the reverse, where like you're just taking a slight layer off. I think it's just a very minor erase tool, more of a like a reducing thing.
Going first, if I draw a line down here, you can see hardly anything happening. You can just about see in there things happening, but not much. Generally, you combine it with something like a crease brush. So if I create a crease in here, it's going across and in there, and then I use the pinch brush, it pulls that crease into itself, so it pinches the topology together. In fact, the crease brush has a pinch option on it. So how far it pulls the vertices of this side and this side into the middle here. And that's what the pinch brush is doing. Now there's some great things you can do with this. So if I do an edge like this with my crease brush and stick it out here, it's great for hard surface modeling. If I go to the pinch brush now, in fact, I'm going to go back to the crease brush and up the resolution, so it's very high, something around 80, and do a crease along here, nice detailed crease now. Let's just smooth that out a bit. Crease along here by holding down control and making it stick out like this. I'm using my mouse at the moment rather than my tablet, so it looks a bit off. But if I go to the pinch brush now, you can see that refines that edge and sharpens it up. And when I zoom out a bit, now we've got quite a hard edge, and with more detailed, especially a detailed resolution brush, that will do a better job. I'll quickly show you that in fact. So there's relative detail, which we start with by default. And if I up the detail, which is actually bringing the level down, which is a bit confusing, but the detail size you bring it down with relative detail. It's the opposite of constant detail. Can you see that really sharp edge that the pinch brush is making now? So that's when I would go over to relative detail for the brush size. So I'm going to go back to constant detail now, and I've still got a very high detail. I'm just going to turn it down to something like 50 for the next lot of brushes. So the next one is the grab brush, and this is very useful if I make my brush nice and big. Let's go to the back here and pull this topology out. Now the grab brush and the snake tool are very similar. So they pull topology out, and they're really important for when you start doing your initial mesh. So I'll just smooth that out with a smooth brush, and I'll pull this out. There's something weird creature we've got here. But the important thing is with the grab brush, if I make it really big and stretch it right out, you can see that it doesn't add any topology, so it's kind of turned down top off at this moment. Now the alternative to that is the snake hook, and when you pull that out, it creates new topology. You see this is nice and clean. It's lagging a little bit because it's adding quite a lot of detail in here. We've got some sort of weird creature now. I'm smoothing that out. But can you see how I've added this long arm?
This is where. So I made kind of. I'll recreate it. So the grab brush kind of like, so if these are like supposed to be his horns or whatever, then like you can just take it. But as you can see, it, like he says, it's like just stretching the current topology. It's not making anything new. But as he said, this kind of like will make new topology. Wait, what's going on? I don't want to get too crazy. just increase the strength. I keep forgetting strength is like the main thing. And brush size. Honestly, let me there we go.
Fine. I'll bring down my brush size a bit, and we'll create some tentacles out the side here. So can you see, that's what the snake tool does. Now be careful with this. I'll just smooth that out a touch. You see my smoothing out makes it a bit thinner, and that's sometimes where you need the inflate brush to inflate ends.
Okay. Give him some nice ram horns. Alright, and then we can grab them and just adjust it.
If you want. Common use for the inflate brush. So back to the snake tool, be careful with the snake hook. So if I bring down the resolution fairly low, to something like 5, and then I start pulling this out, can you see how my mesh has gone all distorted and it's become quite a mess? And even if I go to edit mode with tab on my keyboard, it's still crossing over, and that's very problematic. So back to sculpt mode with tab on my keyboard, and make sure time toggle is still on, which strangely it is this time. I'm going to up my resolution, and let's try and smooth that out. And yes, I've managed to fix that, which is good. I'm just going to go with my draw brush, draw over this, and can you see the difference between the simple topology and the detailed topology was a problem, and now I've gone to a similar level. This is, I think, was 80 or 50, somewhere around that, and this is 20, so it's not so far away, and now we've got less of those glitches. So I'll just smooth that out with a smooth brush. So that's the grab tool, which doesn't add topology or faces, and then the snake tool, which does add faces. The next three brushes I rarely use, but there's the thumb, which is sort of kneading your mesh, like you're using a thumb on some clay. It's quite an interesting on that, but I haven't found much use for it yet. But it sort of pinches it together in certain areas. Maybe I'll experiment a little more. Next one is the nudge, and this does a sort of funny nudging job of nudging topology to the side. And if I put some detail in here, in fact, let's up the resolution a bit again, and I want to nudge something to the side. Can you see it's trying to push it across but keep the detail? It can be quite useful that, to be fair. Let's say I want these gills, which they suddenly are, to be over in this space over here. I can sort of nudge them across. It does squeeze things together though, and it's an untidy brush. Then there's the rotate. So in fact, I'll do some lines again, just so you can see these things working. The rotate brush, make it nice and big, and can you see I'm rotating the objects, which again, these things rarely used, but occasionally they can be really handy. Now there's the mask brush. This is very useful. So let's say if I paint with my mask, let's just bring it down a touch, paint with my mask, anything that's black will not be affected by the brushes I use. So I paint in black here, and then I go to my draw brush, I paint on the side here, can you see it's not affecting the black area, which can be quite useful. If I want to clear a mask, I press Alt-M. So in Blender, Alt is usually sort of like an undo that command tool. So Alt-M, if I paint in black here, is very useful. So let's say if I paint with my mask, let's just bring it down a touch. Paint with my mask, anything that's black will not be...
Alt and undo mask.
Be affected by the brushes I use. So I paint in black here, and then I go to my draw brush, I paint on the side here. You can see it's not affecting the black area, which can be quite useful. If I want to clear a mask, I press Alt-M. So in Blender, Alt is usually sort of like an undo that command tool. So Alt-M, undo mask. Alt-M will clear it. Then I could come with my pinch brush in here and pinch this edge in, and it sharpens it up to a degree. So that's the mask brush. And it's very good if you've got some really sort of tight areas and you want to work on just one point. You can draw a mask, let's say here. Let's Alt middle click to center my pupil around this area and start painting. So I'm just going to work on this area. So I'm masking it. Seems strange that I'm masking it. It looks like I'm not going to work on this area. So I just want to work on this area, but I've got the mask the wrong way around. I can go up to my mask menu up here and press invert mask, and now everything else is inverted, and I can start sculpting on here as much as I like. And Alt-M to clear your mask. There's a few other options which are similar to masking here. There's a box mask, so you can click and drag a section for box masking. Alt-M to clear again. So that's the box mask. And there's also the box hide. So if I select the section there, I can hide it, and that's very handy. But be careful, because anything I draw on here, that has been the case in the past, will not appear in my mirror. So if I click on the box hide again and then click on empty space on the screen, can you see my editing I've done here has not mirrored across? So I'll undo that, and now we're back to symmetry. I could have actually just pressed my remesh and symmetrize in the x-axis option down here. The last brush that I want to talk about is the simplify brush. So if I click on that,
Okay, the remesh. Symmetrize. To make to create symmetry.
that, and change my resolution down to 25. Let's get to the tail because that's high detail. And start painting. You can see it changes the resolution of my model. I'll show you in wireframe. You can see this detail area at the back here is changing the resolution. Very, very useful. Very, very useful. So some areas you might want to simplify the resolution. Let's say this area in here. I can quickly use my simplify brush to reduce it. Back to solid mode. You can see what mess it's made. So be a little bit careful with this. And that's the glitch you get when you've got a combination of high topology and low topology. When we get rid of that, we're going to tab, to edit mode, and then back to sculpt mode. But be a bit careful. If you've got a really high resolution mesh, you go to edit mode, it can mess things up. Perhaps a better option in that case would be just to click the layout mode, where it's in object mode, and back to sculpt mode. But remember, you might have to click on 9 topo once again. So that's all the brushes. You can move your mouse over them to see the shortcuts, which can be very helpful. I encourage you to experiment and try things out, and that's the way you'll learn and figure out what these things can do. I will have more in this series of brushes and details like topology, rake, auto smooth, stroke, and fall off in later episodes. If you've got any questions, do comment below. You can also get across my website for free courses just like this one, or across the Discord server if you want to chat to like-minded people. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps. Hello, and welcome to Academy Out.
Thank you, Grant Abbott, for your knowledge. Okay. I don't know why I'm so tired right now. There's no need. It's not late enough. Take a moment to compose myself as an artist, as a commentator, professional 3D modeler, and NFTer. I'm quite hungry, to be honest. I don't want to spend the money to get food, though, because the only things that are open are not the best for me. But it is Thursday, and that is normally the day that people get rowdy. But I'm live streaming because we are on a grind, and I'm also pledging probably, so I already already went to the open pre-games and stuff. I think I have to start actually doing like the shitty parts. Not shitty, but like the pledging parts. Anyway, that was off topic. I guess there's not really a topic right now. Just kind of ranting, delaying a little bit. Not delaying, but just trying to gather my thoughts before I head into working on my actual project. I should probably pull up the reference images that I was using, and I think I'm in a good spot, to be honest, in terms of, I don't think I need to say this, like where I can go from this. So, let me pull up let me get the snipping tool up and running. Well, actually, hold on. What's the best way to do this? Not sure if I have any UFC fans in the audience, but tomorrow is a pretty big fight for Israel Adesanya. Well, yes, it's more of a big fight for Robert Whittaker because Israel beat him last time, but I'm excited to see Israel fight because he's not as active as I would like him to be for how good he is. Okay, I need to first reimage. My computer could not